Welcome to this episode of Dancing with the Bards, where I, Ian, have been tied up in the audio corner by our host today. Will is running the show, and he's brought with him previous guest Larry, TJ, and Oliver to cover Blood Bowl, 2016 edition. This light war game is based loosely off the rules of American football and rugby, using teams of miniatures based off of Warhammer Fantasy. Published by Games Workshop in 2016, this troop placement board game is the latest in a long line of Blood Bowl editions going back to 1986. Two players face off against each other in a violent showdown to see who is the best. As it says in the rules, though, it's not winning or losing that matters, it's the violence and mayhem that counts. And with that, I'll hand this off to Will, so I can try to reach the phone in my pocket to call for help.
Alright, hey guys, so this was an absolute nightmare to get going.
Yeah, absolutely.
An exercise in patience.
Fun painting, though.
And violence.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I'll be completely honest. This is just an excuse for me to use my painting skills every year.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to get some free painting done, so.
Yeah, exactly.
I win nothing.
Someone let Chris know I'm okay?
Yeah, there are no winners. There are only losers.
Well, I think I won on pretty much all of those aspects. I won the finals. I lost a ballload of players. So I win the violence. I had a lot of violence.
You could just refer to me as Rat Smacker from here on
yeah,
out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're Charlie Kelly, King of Rats. That's your award. But yeah, so I win on all counts of Blood Bowl.
Yeah, you are the best winner.
Yes. All right. So well, I'll let you finish off.
Oh yeah.
Here.
Okay. So going into number of players.
Right. So, shall I start?
We could just bring it around the table.
Sure.
I gave it a 1 for number of players. I think this game gets way more complicated with more people, and I don't think this game benefits very well from unstructured league play.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Larry, if you want to go.
Yeah, that's why I rated it a 2 for number of players because, it sits at 2 people, but you can play with multiple different groups. So I don't think it's a great terms and accessibility of a number of players, but I think it works out well if you just do the 1v1 and then you bring it to somebody else. You can 1v1 with them. So it's not really inclusive in that sense, but it works.
Yeah. I rated it 2 as well because it really does benefit from structure.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So number of players, I also rated 2. I think it depends more on how. What you're trying to get out of it. If you're sitting down a party with a bunch of people, you can't play it with 4 people that you have over. But it works. There's obviously great ways to include more people in kind of league play. And for some people, that's kind of what you're looking to get. Just having one-off sessions and people are around. So it's definitely not something that can scale up crazy well to higher numbers of people. You do have to organize an actual league to get it set up. Not everyone can play simultaneously. Even if you have everyone in the same room, it has a kind of monopoly on the space in a room, not only just from the table space, but there's a lot of manipulation of the game board that needs to happen. So people can't really be walking past, as we know, especially playing in here. But I think, the fact that it can scale up and the fact that it kind of does so in a more, I want to say, epic way, with a more pronounced league thing, kind of a fantasy, fantasy football, I guess it is. Fantasy football, it says right in the box, but also
it's fantasy football.
Fantasy, yeah, exactly.
It's the game of fantasy.
Organized
football.
and officiated well, it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, so there is some scalability there. I don't think it scales like normal other games. War games are never going to be like that, and I think it's never going to be the best for bigger people trying to get into a game, but it definitely doesn't get a 1 in my opinion for that.
I think if you had an actual dedicated games club, or if you had a tight-knit group of people who all expressed interest in doing something like this, or a pre-established war games club,
experience is mandatory, really.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that as well, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
All right. So Oliver's thoughts.
Oliver, give us thoughts.
I did give a portion of my thoughts. I think this in a scenario where you are dealing with a very organized and explicitly organized league play, it would be very interesting. This trying to do a freeform kind of whoever shows up thing would just simply fall apart.
Yeah. So it definitely doesn't get a 3 for that. But I think it has enough scalability there.
It has potential, but it is not self-evident.
Yeah, it's not self-evident, and it takes more effort than other games might.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 2.
All right. So the next thing I think is inclusivity.
All right. So yeah, inclusivity. I gave this one a 2. Overall, I mean, it's not super hard to. It's not super uninclusive. I think comprehension wise, that's where it's a struggle. But if you have a group of people who already know how to play it, once you learn the house rules and the sort of pre-established nomenclature, it's relatively easy to pick up. And there is sort of some stuff in play to help with stuff. They do have team cards. They have roster lists. Yeah. There's tables. They do come with the little quick help guides. I think that's nice to have. That being said, you also do need to have a clerical worker help you like divine these rules.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts?
So as far as inclusivity goes, I kind of rated a 1 because I'm looking at the overall picture here. I mean, if you just go straight out of the box, build your minis, and call it a day, there's really not much to go off of. Because, you're going to have to, build everything. But those team cards that you mentioned, those roster sheets, that's all additional material. That's not things that are readily available when you open up the box.
The roster and the base team cards.
Base teams, yeah.
Yeah,
but
do come with them.
If you're playing an alternate team, like in my sense, which a lot of people are going to want to do, it's not great.
Fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Some offense. One of the teams in the box is functionally unplayable.
The humans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're joke.
Yeah, so I agree. I agree with Larry here. I think more coming from like so I guess, I mean, if it's not inclusive, you're probably not going to get out of the box. So in that aspect, I mean, if someone has a game for you, like, and they have a team, like pre-painted team, I mean, then that can make it even less. But I think even just nice. with what's in the box, one, like, you have to paint all the minis, or even if you don't paint all the minis, then they're kind of be hard to tell apart. People with their own custom painted minis can be kind of hard to discern, especially if you're colorblind or hard of vision. I mean, as even us, we're kind of mostly physically able, and we were all tired from all the standing around and moving pieces around and moving around the board. And I mean, like, even me, I mean, I do a fair amount of physical activity. I march tuba, and my back was starting to hurt from all the standing around that I had to do. And I think so between that, like, hard of vision, there's a lot of stuff to manipulate. It's a lot of standing. It's kind of physical for a board game to start with, which I think is going to go for a lot of war games anyway. I mean, I just think, it can be complicated to learn if it can be hard to discern pieces. I struggled a lot discerning my pieces. That was kind of makes the game slow to start with, figuring out which pieces, like which one's lineman, which one's a blitzer. It takes, it can be strenuous. You have to stand for periods of time. You have to have like pretty good like hand mobility to manipulate the pieces, to discern which ones are what. That's a lot of stuff to keep track of all at once. So I think I gave it a 1. I don't think it's. I mean, a lot of it can depend. I mean, a lot of it's very customizable. If you buy the set yourself, say if you need like high contrast stuff, you can paint your Heat teams high contrast. But like you said, if you're trying to get to a league play, which is kind of like the main mode that this game is played, you don't have control over their pieces, and that can, if they paint their team all black or something, then you can't. Like, or if their team is all green and the field's green, like then you might not even like see a piece, or it might not stand out. So yeah, I don't think it's friendly as for those reasons. I don't think, like if you have like a learning disability, or I don't think it's like exclusionary for other reasons as much, but definitely for those.
On the point of inclusivity, in the wind up before playing my game, I went out of my way to try to learn how to play the game before showing up, and I simply was not able. The documentation on this game is fascinatingly poor, and trying to find a complete set of rules in the capacity to actually comprehend what is going on. If I had not come from a background of experience, I would probably not be here talking about it at all, because I would have moved on to a different game.
Yeah. And if I can add, like, even like within finding the documentation for the rules, like none of us could remember which edition of the rules, even the ones we found, like with which game, because they just call it Blood Bowl over and over again. Like when we were playing the 2016 edition, and various other people played various other editions and even like seasons. And so thankfully we did have the cheat sheets, which did help a lot for the complexity. But a lot of times, even like, very slow experience.
Fascinatingly poor documentation.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fair transition into comprehension as well.
Yeah.
So you can start.
Let's say it together all as one. A little bit of hive mind. 1.
1.
I gave it a 2. I gave it a 2.
All right,
I gave it a 2 as well.
Just
because I come from a wargaming background.
That's
I
fine,
don't.
But...
So
Yeah, I mean, even I have some experience with war games in the past, and I think this is a fairly difficult game. At least with with 40K, which is the other primary game I've played. Everything is laid out in the codex. And the core rulebook, and you can find everything you need roughly in the codex and core rulebook.
You haven't played 7th edition, friend.
I actually started with 6 and skipped over.
And
actually, wait, 7th modern, or are we on 9?
We're on 9.
Yeah.
And just on the subject of 40K, like that thing gets weekly updates, and in such a way that it's buried on online forums. The chance of your rules being the same week to week is nigh impossible. Trying to list build for modern 40K is awful. It should not be used as a benchmark here because it's worse than this.
Yeah. Which is why, once again, I strike it a 2 with comprehension because, oh man.
In comparison to 40K
stuff,
as 1?
The rest of Game Workshop's fun, great times. Great times all around.
Yeah, I've played sparse few war games. I just kind of liked... I mean, I thought that once we got the kind of basics of it down, and I think this isn't a game you can pick up with 2 people who don't know how to play. You need someone who knows at least some.
This is a game that firmly benefits from a Sherpa.
Once we kind of got into the groove of things, like the cheat sheets were kind of enough, I think, or at least pretty much mostly enough. And when we had disputes, we were mostly able to check it on a cheat sheet. We still had some disputes, and we still again needed someone to learn how to play. But once I got into the groove and learned and played a few games, like I think it was easy enough to get through. Didn't feel like I mastered it at all. Felt like I was kind of like treading water a bit, but I don't think it's a 1.
I think of all of the games we've reviewed so far, this has definitely been the hardest.
Yeah.
And this is a war game, so I don't think it's fair to compare, a normal board game to this.
This isn't apples to apples.
It's no Strawberry Sunset.
Yeah. This is not a Strawberry Sunset. But even still, I think this game is... I think it would be easier if it was written in Greek.
Yeah.
Even an RPG with its own dice set, looking at you, Edge of the Empire,
Yeah.
wasn't as much of a nightmare as this. And we went a whole session, had no idea what the hell half of the symbols did.
Yeah.
Well, I think a 1 is extremely fair. I mean, it's definitely close. It's close to 1 to me, too.
All right. Your chances of snagging a copy, if you want to put yourself through hell.
I mean, all right. So I'm still waiting on one of my copies. The main issue with the availability as well, rated a 1 by the way. Good luck trying to match editions with somebody else. If you are not playing the absolute most modern edition, then good luck. I couldn't find rules for 2016. I've been going for my whole team roster. I've been going off the most modern because that's the only one you can find.
So, fun fact, my team actually just did not exist in the 2016 edition. So my team is, in fact, from the 2020 edition. However, with that being said, it is something that you're able to kind of cross teams over, even if the rules get a little janky. Like, there's an entire skill set that just does not exist in the 2016 edition that existed in the 2014 edition. So... Those things, it is messy, but it is available. Also, though, when I did order I bought a base copy and I bought 2 other teams, and I will say now they all arrived about a month and a half apart from each other, which is just phenomenal considering they all came from the same place.
Yeah. So I had a pretty easy time buying...
Oh, that's a 2, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So I rated this a 1. I had a pretty easy time getting this, but I also wasn't, looking for it. I had heard of it vaguely, a few days before, and then I happened across a used copy at PAX for $60. And it came with 3 teams, and everything pre-assembled, and all the rule books and the stuff for the stock teams, plus an expansion and a thing for it. So I had a great time. I also didn't even know that Larry's team was from 2020. So that fact is news to me. So it is great that there is some level of cross-playing. I still give it a 1. I mean, like I said, we had a whole lot of difficulties trying to get the same version, making sure we had the same versions. I mean, even like the rules are so similar, like looking on the design, that it's hard to tell. Like looking at it now in front of me, a whole different version. So I think, yeah, I mean, if I was trying to buy more stuff like for this, like it would be very hard. And if I was trying to play with people, I'd have to buy all new stuff, and then I'd have to deal with everything that they've gone through. I mean, it was kind of more catered to my version, this whole thing, because I just had it, and that's kind of what brought it up. So with that in mind, I'm rating a 1. I personally, if you're in a situation where you just like me, where you come across it and you hit some friends up, then maybe you'll have an easier time, with the availability thing. But if you're trying to play like actual like bonafide Blood Bowl, then yeah, you're gonna have a rough time getting it.
Now, I did not wind up purchasing a copy of the game, but I still have a story. So, meta for Warhammer 40k for a very long time involved Harlequins in a Ynnari list, right? And Harlequins are expensive troop boxes. So one of the things that Harlequin players realized they could do is they could buy an Elven Union Blood Bowl team and kit bash Harlequin masks over them so they could have troops for the 40k game. When I tell you, it took me almost 2.5 months to get my 1-box team of Elven Union, and it's almost entirely to blame on that fact. It is unfathomably funny. Firm 1.
That's incredible.
I think that's actually a good transition into the materials. This is, at its core, a materials-based game. It's a Games Workshop. The game itself is here to sell minis.
Yeah.
And boy, do I love minis.
And
3 points.
And that leads me to go to a 2 because, I mean, yes, minis are awesome. Minis are a great time. The problem is minis come unassembled. So as long as you have experience doing it, it's not too bad. But if you've never put something together before, you are making a homunculus because let me tell you, Games Workshop's mini directions are definitely not cream of the crop. They give you some pictures, some weird symbols, some arrows, and they call it a day. Oh, sometimes there's numbers. Sometimes. Blood Bowl, there's no numbers, which is even more fun because my friend who is assembling a Bretonian team, he has like 6 eagles in his box, and none of those eagles tell you where to put them.
They should be numbered on the sprue itself.
They are not.
Then that is a problem
That
because all
is-
of mine are numbered.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. My stuff came pre-assembled, very good, and my lovely friends here painted them for me, also very good. I don't know if you've seen a Skaven piece. You can go Google that now. I won't wait. But they have very flimsy looking tails with weights in the end, and none of them were broken. I think I had one piece with damage in it from a used box with 3 teams. And you see how this stuff piles into this box. It is not secured. It's jumbling around. Nothing was broken. I have to give it a 3 for quality, just on the fact that like pretty much everything was unbroken from even being pre-assembled. You think being pre-assembled would give it a higher risk of being broken.
I would also like to throw out the only part that was broken before like we started actually playing with it was one of the pre-glued bases had come off.
Yeah.
So it's not even the mini itself, but
Yeah.
the adhesion to the 2 plastic layers.
Yes, even without like special stuff to store or anything, because I don't have it. Like it survived transit. God knows where it came from. I don't think it came from the state when I bought it. It definitely moved out of the state where I bought it, and it's moved around a ton of places since. It's now packed in the box on the table where you're writing on it. Yeah, I mean, I can't really fault it for quality materials and the stuff in it. So 3.
The thing I want to touch on that, though, is it is definitely down to the material you use as well, which is also an extra purchase. If you buy some cheap glue, your stuff will fall apart.
Yeah, but that's super glue. I mean,
I'm gonna also throw out that it's not necessarily because this is dollar store super glue I use. It comes down to the way you adhere it. You have to sand it, and you have to take a bunch of extra steps if you use lower quality products. That's why it takes so long.
Yeah.
There's an artistry to it.
Exactly. It's part science, part art, or mostly art, a little bit of science.
Yeah.
With regards to my materials, I was satisfied with the minis as far as Games Workshop kits. These were particularly entertaining to paint. Actually, I had a just great time painting them, which is something I don't often get to say about things.
That's actually a really good point as well. I want to throw out that these are very fun minis to paint.
These are high, elegant detail minis that are designed in such a way where you can do as much detail work as you want, and that's it. It's really a chance to show off if you want to, and it's fun.
Exactly.
It's really fun.
It really is.
Eat that boring Primaris Marines.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Though.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to start talking about that because
No, we're not.
the New Age Super Soaker Marines are hilarious.
We're not touching that.
Yeah. All right. So everyone get their thoughts on.
Yeah.
How does everyone feel about materials? We good?
Yeah, I think we
All right.
Net positive.
So setup. The
I would
gameplay.
say, real quick from the corner here, Brooke would be upset at us if we didn't mention things like the box.
Oh yes, no. You know what? That is actually quite important.
Are we talking box art or box control?
Box condition. Now, the box here and the materials that it comes with are relatively high quality. Considering I have spilt drinks on 2 of the things now, that was you were there for that.
I mean, it's most certainly a box.
It's a box and it survived.
It looks in pretty good quality.
I do believe I see some tape over here on this corner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there's a bit of tape. Not much though.
But overall,
I think it just came unfolded. Yeah.
I don't have anything bad to say on the subject.
I mean, I what are the words that Brooks likes us to use? The light fastness.
It's near mint.
So the one thing I will bring up in that aspect, though, is that if you do buy an alternate team, you're not keeping your box because your minis are not fitting in said box.
Well, at that point, yeah, too. You're also buying like what I have, where you have like a
troop
whole
carrier.
Yeah, the troop carrier.
It's also not practical to store teams in the box, anyways, because of just there is no box management. That's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
But the box is very well detailed. It's
pretty.
It's a very pretty box. And I mean, it's what, like 8 years old now? 9 years old? 2016?
2016 edition.
So yeah, for 9 years old.
7.
What? No, 2016.
7.
7.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope. That's how numbers work. You don't add them together.
Yep.
I know how to
3
do
plus
math.
6 equal 9.
Yeah.
All right, so down to setup.
Solid 2.
Solid 1.
This game, I mean, there's a lot of things that we could talk about for setup. I mean, if we're doing league play and organizing people, that's
Yikes on
definitely
bikes.
yeah, that sucks. But I think for just the sake of this game, I'm just not gonna really touch that end of things.
Yeah.
The board itself and getting the actual game set up and going is relatively fast. Unpacking the box, getting the table cleared off, getting your armies set up, getting all of the peripherals set up is probably about 15 minutes max.
So I always like to look at these things from an unexperienced perspective, though. And with that being said, I mean, your team comes with 12 to 14 players, and you can only put 11 on the board. If this is your first time playing it, you're not going to have any idea what to pick. I mean, your first game is going to be an absolute nightmare. So I am going to give it a 1, just because if I were to be like, hey, man, you've never played Blood Bowl before, let me ruin your life. And I don't mean that negatively. I mean that, and you're going to probably spend tons of monies on minis. It's not fun. it's very, you're going to be looking to your friend who dragged you into this mess, constantly questioning what to do next.
So yeah, I mean, I gave it a 2 here. I think there's something to be said for the fact that you have to assemble all the minis before you play. So I'm definitely going to ding it for that. I mean, I know it is a war game, so that's expected. So I'm not going to ding it all the way 1 because it is, that part of the setup is tedious, but you're also getting into a game of minis, so it has to even it out a little bit. But as far as, like, I don't think the issue for me ever at any time, when I tried to play this before with someone that was totally unexperienced, we spent 2 hours and weren't able to figure it out. But the board got set up pretty fast. I mean, once the minis were assembled, which again, you're going to say that's the first thing you do, and then you try to set up. But like, once you get, like, you can open the board, you can get the pieces set up, you can read through the rules, it gives you a scenario. Like, it's pretty easy and simple to set up straightforwardly, other than the assembling. But knowing what to do from there and then strategy and all that, that's a totally different beast. But getting everything like ready to play out of the box, I mean, it's more pieces than a lot of games, but I mean, and you have to, like, set up for, the teams, and you have to have both players there, and then you have to wait for them to set up, so it's a little clunky that way, but it's not crazy bad. I've played games with much worse setup.
Just on the topic of setup, it is very difficult to rate this any higher than a 1 for a game that is best experienced in a league scenario where you're interacting with above like 4 or 5 other people with regards to organization. And just trying to find that many people in the first place who are willing to put money on a war game is something that is daunting in the extreme, and if you don't already have an established group that's into this sort of thing, would be near impossible. This is unassailable to anyone who is not already in the proverbial cult. So firm
Gift
1.
teams ruin their lives. Gift teams.
that is certainly one way to do it. It's a but again, I want to say that I had initially revised down from a 3 because if everyone knows what they're doing and they just want to rip it off the shelf and play and they brought their teams with them, you can get from box to playing in like 20 minutes.
And I think it's for that very reason why I gave it a 2. It's the setup for, I'm not even going to say we're experienced, but a setup for somebody who's done this more than once, it's very, very fast.
Yeah.
It's the initial startup that
Yeah.
will take a while.
You know what's not fast? Rate of play.
Yeah. All right. Great transition there. 1 all around. Are we in agreement on that?
I don't think we are.
Unfortunately not, no.
Oh,
no.
I
Sitting in the
don't
middle.
think the average is even 1. I think the average is a 2 or higher.
Yeah,
I
we're sitting in the middle.
rated it 3.
I rated it 2.
I think that it's slow when it needs to be fast and fast when it needs to be slow.
So
Yeah.
I rated it a 2 just because of the fact that if you have a competent player that you're playing against, it can be very, very, very clunky. However, the fact that turnovers happen on almost a whim sometimes, like you would sit here and be like, hey man, I have 11 people on the field. I'm going to do this, and this. And if you pick those in the wrong order and you have a bad roll, that's game over, man. Your turn's over. So it can move fast, it can move slow, but a lot of the times it does manage to keep you engaged.
Yeah, so I gave it a 2 as well. I mean, the time, like you said, it fluctuates a lot. I mean, you can have games. I think our first half took an hour and a half,
And our second half took 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it ended only like a turn or two before the other one. Because I think the first half technically ended just a turn earlier, just because only one of us was taking a turn. And he just bashing my guys because I scored a touchdown near the end.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then the second half just went lightning fast because again like the turnovers and stuff. So I mean, if someone so it's very inconsistent, but also like you can still be thinking and strategizing stuff, and it gives both players still at least something to do even during like both players are doing something even during the longer turns. If your opponent's turn is working out, you're still going to be making a lot of rolls. You're not going to be. It can still be very long turns, so I think it can be easy to get distracted and kind of lose focus. So I can't give it a 3, and it can take a really long time, and it can be really inconsistent how long it takes. So, but I don't think you're not guaranteed to have it go like at a poor rate. But it's just so up in the air. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it can be fast and fun if things go a certain way or another.
As the standout, I feel a bit obligated to qualify this a bit. I have rated it as a 3 mostly because of that interchangeability and that variability, because on your opponent's turn, what they're picking and what they're doing could very easily just mean it's suddenly your turn, and that's a very attractive thing to me. It means you're paying attention to what your opponent's doing because you're very much looking for an opportunity to say, hey, by the way, if you do that wrong, it's going to be my show now. And that can be very enjoyable. It means that you're actively paying attention to what your opponent's doing in a way that you wouldn't normally. And I think that combined with the additional randomness of what's going on in your turn, it can create some very interesting, lines of thought. Yeah. And I enjoyed my time with it.
There's one other thing also, like managing roles. We also have to answer a lot of questions about your team if they're not intimately familiar. That's something that comes up too. So you have to be engaged with where they're moving. Let's say this guy, what this guy's skills are. Oh, there's block, and then you can kind of figure out what they're doing. So that is also interesting to work through as well.
Alrighty, on to price.
Price. All right. Well, we'll kick it off.
Yeah. So expensive. This is a financial Not, I wouldn't even say
Burden.
Burden. Thank you. This is a financial burden. Each starter box for a team is about $60. If you're playing in league, it's recommended to probably have 2 of those. if you're doing anything longer than like an 8-season game, because you're going to need to substitute people.
It makes the assumption that you're going to A, lose players, and B, buy new ones.
Exactly. But I mean, that is what you have to do in league play.
Yeah.
You need to
necessary.
meet, it is actually necessary. And then the base game itself is I don't know if we did this on recording already, but I think we did the math out. If you wanted to buy the two armies plus the core rulebook, you'd end up paying more than the base box itself.
Yeah, it's not an attractive number at all.
I think we have a copy on the workshop website. It says 116.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's the price he's mentioning.
Yeah. So and it would roughly be around like 170 to 180 for the rule books and everything else. I believe I paid $60.
Not to mention paint and man hours, because like I had genuinely 30, 40 hours into painting.
Oh yeah, paint and paint materials as well.
Yeah.
That's a huge financial commitment.
You don't necessarily need to paint. I didn't. I wasn't going to until they made me. You should paint your stuff, especially if you're going to go in a random league.
It's just the point of personality. It's an expression of self. Without doing that, it cheapens the experience.
Exactly. I believe there is a rule in actual GW League play.
Yeah, it's the 3 colors rule or
is
whatever.
It 2 or 3?
3.
Okay.
Oh, it's 3 colors.
Ew. All right. Yeah. So I mean, as far as price goes, I slapped it at 2 because I've once again have a wargaming background, so I expect these things. Now, is it an attractive price point? Most definitely not. But it's about the price you'd expect.
Yeah.
Because GW does offer premium minis. They are probably the second best in the game when it comes to material wise. I would rate whatever those dudes who did the Fallout miniatures game slightly above them. Their minis are incredibly high quality. But the GW, it's still it's the queen to the king kind of deal.
I mean, just to tie in with what you're saying, if you compare your a 40K or fantasy like Age of Sigmar box, what you'd get in one of those, you're paying $20 less for the same amount of units.
That depends on what faction too, because Nurgle, you buy a box, you're paying $90, but
this is true. Yeah, Nurgle,
you get like 75 units.
Having to pay full price for orcs is one of the most miserable experiences because they're one of the most fun in lore and one of the least fun to pay for.
Oh yeah.
You know, until you walk into a Walmart, buy a Tonka truck, and
paint it red so it moves faster. And
exactly.
Yep.
Orcification, real
Orc
problem.
magic's cool all around.
Yeah, I rated it a 2. I'm not part of the wargaming scene, but I know a lot of people who are, and I played them. I know how much wargames go for pricing, and it's not a fun number ever. So I think for just if you're playing this, like you wanted to try it out, have fun with your friends or whatever. $60 for generally is what you can get it for, just for like a box used or whatever, like generally available. That's not a bad price for like a board game. It's not a great price, but it's not a totally bad price.
If you find
if for war game stuff, I don't think it breaks the bank as much as most war games either. So price point, I think whether you attack it, it's fine.
I do think that $60 price point, there are a few modifiers that need to go into there. One, you bought it when this edition was being phased out in modern play.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the big things. But used editions for like modern are still like $100.
You got very lucky.
Yeah, you got the deal of a century.
Well, we are also still reviewing Blood Bowl 2016, so
this is true. You could theoretically find 2016 for
with how much bleed
$60.
over there was in actual play. I think calling it the Blood Bowl review is charitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I rated it a 2. I mean, at some point, like, my experience with this is gonna factor in. I mean, you can still get by with playing Blood Bowl, even more modern rule sets with an out of date stuff. Like I said, like Larry and I, he played a 2020 team against my 2016 team, so and it was fine. Much.
It's really what you're buying the box for is the teams and the pitch. The rules are interchangeable,
so I think it's fine. I think its price point's fine. It's not great. It's fine for a war game. It's fine enough for a board game.
Oliver, did your wallet cry?
No, I wanted to remember the exact price that I had paid for my team, and I was attempting to look it up quickly. I did not wind up having to deal with the full investment of buying the box game. I know what the number is, and boy, howdy, is that not attractive. And I think the fact that I haven't went to go out and buy one of my own speaks something, so I think I have to rate it on 1 on that alone. But for the actual team itself, and assuming that you have friends who own the book, the investment point is actually fairly low. Buying a team boxed is what, like $40 for the box?
40 to 60 depending on the team and the availability.
So if you're just doing it for a one-off, like as far as just like a show paint thing, you can get away with spending like $40, but that is not the attractive way to play. Well, yeah, I own paints, and I find it hard to price what I've already paid for. But yeah, I'm probably in like 70-80 for what I have so far on the table.
If I were to go in blind... Oh, no. Sorry. Go on.
I was going to say, Oliver, you don't weigh your paints before and after? Get how much paint you use down to the cent?
Well, you see, the funny thing is that Games Workshop paints maybe, but like I got out of that gig a while ago.
Oh, Army Painter all the way.
Army
no
Painter's
blasphemy on the podcast.
Army Painter is where it's at. No, Army Painter has some great paint. Don't get me wrong. I'm out of Joanne Fabrics branded acrylics and loving them. They're great. They behave better than they have any right to.
Let it just be known. I'm gonna say this right now, and I don't care who hears. Citadel paints are overpriced. They're very nicely pigmented, and they're specifically designed.
With one exception, the effect paints are very nice.
My bronze, dude. My bronze is gorgeous.
It looked great.
But I have an ancient bronze that looks exactly the same for like 2/3 the price.
Did your ancient bronze cost $25? I didn't think so.
My bronze cost me $3.
Oh, wow. Big man on campus.
Yeah, no.
All right, let's get on to extras.
Oh, yeah. So extras. A lot. Not even including like paints, brushes, and all of the stuff to actually assemble the minis.
I showed up with 2 minis for my coach and my owner, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing. Thank you for reminding me about that. In the rules, in 2016 as well as the 2020 rules, there's multiple parts throughout it where they recommend just buying random minis to represent the cheerleaders, your coaches, like anybody who could be associated.
The audience, the refs.
Yeah, the audience, the apothecary, the refs, all that sort of stuff. It is crazy.
Don't do that.
No, dude.
It adds so much personality.
It does.
It's character.
If you're gonna sit down and spend 4 hours on a game of football, I want to feel immersed.
Yeah, like I'm going to spend enough time setting up like this elaborate stand of all my old D&D minis. That sounds amazing,
right?
Yeah, as far as extras go, it is a 3 out of 3 for me because, oh my god, it is incredible. You can get certified stuff. You can make your own stuff.
It's really amazing.
I mean, don't make your own stuff and show up to a GW-sanctioned league because they might execute you on site.
You will be lynched on the spot.
If you're lucky.
They will send Terminators
Sometimes
to your house. They will crush your home and eat your dogs.
They will flay you, they will kill you, and they will eat your corpse. And if you're lucky, they'll do it in that order.
I was gonna bring up towards the end of this the Games Workshop conundrum that we've talked about before.
We'll definitely address that in the wrap up because, ooh boy,
Yarhar.
Don't you
Something to
love
look forward
Games
to,
Workshop? GW's the best, ain't it?
if you're a fan, you hate them.
Yeah.
And if you're not a fan, you're just confused.
All right.
I think it's an unassailable 3 for me. I mean, it's so much stuff. I don't think we need to go into too much detail over that. I think we covered it.
Yeah. There's a lot. Into enjoyment.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. All right. As I've stated multiple times, I'm a masochist, and I absolutely I like these kind of games where I have to track a million numbers, even though I'm not particularly good at it.
It's learning for you.
Yeah.
If I feel with none of the benefits. If he speaks, then Chris knows where he is. There we go.
But yeah, like I said, I gave it a 2. I think it's fantastic. I like these kind of games. I think Blood Bowl is a lot easier for me to enjoy than something like 40K, where it is constant meta jumping, as we've stated earlier.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to keep on top of that.
So, as someone who has probably been the most cynical voice out of this, I, of course, rated this a 3 out of 3. Because, I mean, as painful as it may be to play and as painful as it is to learn, it is a very enjoyable game. There's a lot of intense moments. There's a lot of planning that you do turn to turn, and things like that I really enjoy. So it's not something that you could just sit down and play with grandma on your afternoons off, but it is definitely something that if you get people who are like-minded with this, it's a very enjoyable game.
Yeah. I rated it a 3. I mean, I think, it's possible to ding it for the complexity of the pieces setting things up. Well, nothing, but like like to check the rules. Bless you. Over and over, like not over and over again, but like I think overall I still enjoyed it. I mean, I would enjoy it a lot more. I think like the enjoyment goes up pretty exponentially. Like the more games of it you play, the more experience you get. And so, I mean, by the time I was getting into the groove of things, I think I decided. I think it's a 3. I mean, all right. So that aside, sorry, there was a brawl. We forgot which team was best, and we couldn't agree.
Rats, Smacker.
So yeah, I mean, I think it was enjoyable, and if I played more of this, I think I would have enjoyed it more and more. So yeah, I mean, I can't fault it for the enjoyment aspect. I enjoyed it a lot. I give it a 3.
I rated it 2.5.
Nice.
I think it's a fun game. It's very entertaining. It needs a kick in the pants. It suffers from its degree of randomness is a little bit too self-satisfying. Like, there is just a baseline chance of failure at everything that is a little bit too high to plan anything of significant consistency. It just the baseline assumption that everything is going to go wrong is something that's very strange to play around, and I don't like a game that actively punishes you for playing it, but it doesn't do it bad enough to really complain, so I'm just going to ding it half a point here and move on with my life.
Fair. Very fair. Would you recommend it? I don't think I would, personally.
I would not recommend this at all. I would simply shove a box into someone's hands and tell them to play. There's a difference.
Yeah.
I would recommend this to people that would share a similar interest in it, but this isn't something that I'd recommend to...
Exactly.
I see somebody playing tic-tac-toe. I'm not going to be like, dude, you should try Blood Bowl if you like that.
Yeah, I think I'm with Larry in this. I think we both gave it 2s. I think it's not something that everyone's going to enjoy. It's not something that... I mean... Yeah, it's not something everyone's going to enjoy. It's something that I think that a lot of people will at least want to give a chance, and I think it's something a lot of people would like once they give it a chance. It can be hard to learn, but if you already know how to play, that's probably why you're recommending it. You're going to have them. You're going to you really need to learn this with someone who already knows how to play, and you're going to be that person for them. So then, yeah, I think it's fair to recommend it like that. I think if you're someone just freshly being subjected to it, maybe not. And I think subjected to, I mean, I bought this box on a whim, and so I can't really, I probably the only person who's ever done that with this game, just bought it and be like, teach me how to play this game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a solid 2. I don't think everyone's going to enjoy it. I don't think everyone should even try to play it. I don't think if they're the kind of person who doesn't mesh with, if they're not like war games, don't like complex board games and stuff like that. If they don't like things that are very hectic, if they don't like football, yeah, but I don't think it's a 1. I mean, I think it's something that enough people at least have passing interest in learning how to play that.
Again, this is personal. So
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't do it. And for what you said too, I know I'm not a very good teacher. And but am I though?
I won.
Fair.
Now, how many times would you want to do that again, though?
I mean, I wouldn't do it.
Fair.
It's not something that I want to play every day. It's not like Magic. You sit down, have a game or whatever. That's at a higher price point, mind you. And it's not. I mean, it's more replayable than like checkers.
But I think that's kind of interesting because I do kind of view this and Magic in sort of the same boat. I don't necessarily know I would recommend it on the same sort of reasons, just because it's deceivingly complicated.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it doesn't have to be.
But that's the thing, is this game doesn't have to be. But once you start understanding things, then it gets more complicated.
Yeah, but at that point, that person's hooked. So.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then they're calling you every weekend to hang out.
So yeah, I mean, as far as replay value goes, it sits right in the middle for me. This isn't something that I want to play every single week, though it is something that I'd like to get around to at least maybe 2 times a month. It's a fun game. There will be times that you play and you're like, I'm never playing this game again. But of course, after a sunk cost fallacy point is hit, you're gonna keep going back anyways. And it's still a lot of fun. It is. As much as I like to bash on this, it is a quality, enjoyable, fun, replayable game.
Fun fact for those of you at home, that exact number for when the sunk cost fallacy kicks in, $65.98.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think it has a lot of replay value. I give it a 3. Absolutely right. This is not something you're going to want to take off the shelf every day. I mean, absolutely not. But it is something that you would like to make into a multiple game session, which is generally speaking how people play it. So we've already talked about starting up leagues and stuff like that. So I think, so the games generally don't get repetitive. Like, I think if I play Larry 3 times, I win none of them, generally. Probably had to get a higher number for that. I should have thought of a higher number before I started saying that. You play like 5 times.
3 isn't the highest number there is out there.
It's close. It's close, but it's not quite.
7.
Yeah.
7 in case if
7
you're
is-
wondering.
Yeah. That's why you have that many fingers. Fun fact. So, but yeah, I mean, the games themselves are going to be really different every time. It's something that you can hook up and play, kind of like more D&D like, where you just have a session of things that project like into the next games. And yeah, so it's not something you can take off the shelf every day, but it is something that you're going to want to play more with the same people once you get it going. So I give it a 3 there. And also, again, the games don't stagnate.
That's very fair.
On the subject of replayability, if every person walking into this room willing to play this game is doing so on purpose and with vigor, the game cannot fail to be interesting.
Yeah.
What happens is so variable and has so many moving parts, it will never be boring.
Yeah.
Like getting an interception jacked when you have everything lined up.
Like having
6 or higher.
having 2 failures through a reroll to escape an agility thing to get into an end zone 2 squares away, and then somehow watching 2 shambling zombies throw the ball across the entire pitch.
Or actually, how many times did you roll 3 dice?
And
You
got
rolled them
3 pushes.
6 times, and 3 of those times you got 3 pushes. And then 1 you got 2 pushes and an attacker down.
What is the mathematical probability of that?
Low. It's very
Incredible. I
low.
think push is what, 2 faces on the die?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
2 faces. So yeah, I mean, it's like getting like, all of those 3 times, getting all 3 pushes. Or I guess it was 2. I think 2 times there's 3 pushes, and one of those 2 pushes and attacker down, which is functionally
See,
the same.
what I think
that's
it
like-
is,
like,
I
yeah, very well.
think the better you are dressed, the worse you roll, as personally evident.
Yeah, my shirt has
Because
a lot
I
of
came here
typos.
straight out of work and I absolutely stomped Oliver.
Yep.
And then I came here in this
I don't know about
incredibly-
stomped, but
Nah.
you but you did win.
That was a very
Yeah.
close game, if I'm being
Yes.
honest.
And then I came here dressed to impress, and I couldn't even
It
roll
was a
to
great
hit.
shirt.
It is a great shirt.
Yeah.
If you watched the stream earlier, you would understand.
My shirt is loaded with typos and tells you to steal. So,
Tasty.
which I did. I didn't want me the game. So
Yeah.
steal things. Yeah.
Spoken like a true rat. Steal the shiny.
Yeah.
Rat smacker.
Yeah, just to tie up replay value, I think at this game's core, it is a league-based game, and it is designed to be played over the course of several months with multiple different people.
Yeah.
Now
And-
you're going to
and it
want
is
to
fun
keep
to do
doing that.
And
though.
yeah, exactly, and it's very fun to do that. I think that's where this game shines.
Yeah. It's
is-
made to be replayable. It is replayable.
Yeah, exactly.
As a bar night once a week thing where people are walking in friendly, ready to fight, and fun stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If you get sober enough to play it.
All right, now we get into the abstracts. How'd you guys feel the game?
I felt it was pretty innovative. I wouldn't give it a full all the way because there are those war game elements that are still there. There's a lot of in-depth strategy. It's if you've played a war game, you can play this, but it's not going to be exactly the same. This isn't going to be your what is the stupid World War II one that you love so much?
Flames of War.
Flames
That's
O
the only
War.
other one I've played.
Okay, I'm
And,
sure you have.
Let it be real. I don't love it. I tolerate it. It's like
But
one of those skin rashes. That
Like
comes
you've played
back.
that. If you've played that, if you've played 40K, if you've played fantasy, if you've played anything with miniatures, it's kind of the same sort of strategy you're going to use. Big guys up front to hurt people, sneaky guys in the back to do sneaky things. It's innovative enough because it's football instead of blowing people into pieces.
Well.
Well, you still do manage to do that, especially if you're a rat, because they must be smacked.
I mean, we do the snotlings too. They can just
Right,
blow people
yeah.
up.
I came in with double digits and I left with single digits.
As you should.
If this was league.
Rats smacked.
Yeah, I got smacked.
Bro, you smack rats?
Oh yeah, baby.
You got smacked.
Smack rats. So what was that? Innistrad?
Like you
Turn
said,
around and come.
I thought this was relatively innovative as well, if not just for the fact that it is tabletop football.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool concept, and that sold me alone before I even knew about the tabletop version. I got the PC version, and I was like, "Oh, this is neat."
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, I think I first discovered it. I mean, I bought it on a whim, but when I first heard of it, I was like talking to someone. I was like, "Oh, it'd be like neat if there was like a tabletop version of football." I was like, "Oh, like Games Workshop." I was like, "Oh," because I know about Game Workshop, and that wasn't,
I feel like I'm about to say something that's going to flashbang the table, but I want to get this out.
But I think it's pretty innovative. I mean, combining those two aspects of the football, the game, and also and how it's done. I mean, it's not just flat football rules; it's a mix of rugby and American football, and a strong mix of them at that. Like, there's forward passes, but the turnover rule is like rugby turnovers. And I think it works really well. I think that they hit all the right points of trying to make it be enough like American football and rugby without, like really tampering.
Without being American.
Yeah, without tamping. Yeah, also being British. But also, like, they think they managed to make the right concessions to make it, like, more playable, to make the league stuff work, to make it fun. So I gave it a 2 towards innovative for me.
I feel like I'm about to flashbang the entire table. Because I'm of the firm opinion, this is 2 marks towards classic, that this game is simply checkers with extra steps.
Okay, explain.
You see, you're moving your pieces towards the enemy side, and you're moving one piece between your own pieces, and that's kind of it. You bonk into the opponent, and you want to get more of your pieces closer to your opponent, so your pieces punch harder.
I don't think that's how our game went at all.
I mean, I don't really think that's how checkers works at all. There's not like stat buffs to like.
Yeah. That's ephemeral. The stats don't mean anything. If you outnumber them, you can punch harder.
Okay, all right. I understand where you're coming from with that.
It's just that at its core, this game is delightfully simple. If you outnumber your opponent, you have more opportunities to roll and succeed, and that is an interesting point of value.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to assume you also rated this on the simple side of the scale.
No, I rated this very complex.
Oh, okay, interesting.
This is a complex interpretation of checkers, and my mind is ephemeral.
I think you need to stop playing checkers.
This is 4-dimensional checkers.
I play 5D chess
checkers with you,
and
or
4D
not
checkers.
And 4D checkers.
I do not want to play checkers with him after this because apparently there are a lot of punchings that go on.
Yeah. You don't want to find out what happens.
Yeah, someone tries to skip my piece. Absolutely not in my house, man. Come on.
Yeah, it turns out you tried to jump that piece. That was a landmine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I rated this a 2 for complex. I think this is a little bit more on the complex side without it being like a full, I don't want to say 40K, but something similar to like Flames of War or what's the other one? The War Machine. Something.
The Hordes and War Machine, something.
Hordes is one, War Machine is a separate one.
I thought they were like the same side of the coin, though.
Yeah, but like Sigmar and 40K, I thought they were like the same system.
No, I'm pretty sure they can like cross over.
It's kind of like how 40K has certain units that cross over with the demons or the chaos, but
Blood Bowl always kind of felt like Sigmar's Necromunda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds completely foreign to anyone who's not on the scene.
Yes, yes, it does.
So basically, what we're trying to say is that it's a light version of Warhammer Fantasy, and it's a mini game of Warhammer Fantasy.
I think it's an individual battalion of units. If you were to zoom in on what's going on with just those battalions at any given time, it would basically be these mechanics.
It's identity. But with that being said, I only rated it a 1 towards complex because, I mean, once you get going, it is very easy. If you can get over that initial hurdle, it's not too complicated to understand. I mean, you run forward, you hope you don't eat the turf, and that's about it.
But we did also leave a lot of stuff out. Like the first game we didn't do weather. Towards the end we started adding stuff, but there are a lot of things that like we weren't tracking. Like we should have, like, if it's a home or an away game, and then there's fans to track, and then there's certain things with the fan. This is why we didn't do
that's
fans.
All
kickoff
stuff.
Events
that's
as
all
well that we
stuff.
weren't doing.
Yeah, kickoff events.
So that's even on the cheat sheet, the kickoff events. Like, for the
but that's
version,
again, the kickoff events are for League mainly because they effectively have. And if we're doing just Expedition, everyone starts with $1 million gold to begin with. So So it's just like bribes don't matter.
I'm also of the aspect though that it's okay to play a learn to play game or 3. There's another gaming company that does that all the time. Fantasy Flight they absolutely love to be like, here's a 10-page rulebook and here's a 74-page rulebook, and that's okay to play that way.
A guidebook for the guidebook.
Yeah, you don't jump into League play. Nobody's buying this game and being like, all right, man, I'm going to get 12 friends together and we're going to play a league and nobody has any idea what the hell we're doing.
I mean, isn't that kind of what we did?
Well, no, we played 3 practice games and we all hated it. And somehow we all still rated this as a 3 in enjoyment.
I enjoyed our game together.
Oh,
You
no,
were
I
fun to play
enjoyed
with.
it. But the everything leading up to that moment was not an enjoyable experience.
Yeah, but we're also a very disorganized bunch, so I think we were kind of the wrong kind of people to do it. I feel like, well, I don't know to say, if you're listening, you should probably have your stuff together more than we do, because that might not be true. But, I mean, there's a good chance. So,
I mean, you have access to podcasts.
yeah, right. But you're listening to a podcast right now instead of doing something constructive, like recording a podcast. So, yeah.
I mean, we don't know that. They could be doing something constructive while listening to
recording a podcast while listening to our podcast.
Podcastception.
Yeah. Don't do that, I don't think, for a variety of reasons. Or do.
Yeah, don't.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I rated it. It's pretty complex. It's pretty complex for me. Don't have a war games background, and I think it's fair to rate any war game also as the highest complexity. And also just like Will said, there's a lot of stuff we're not keeping track of. And there's a lot of pieces on the board too. Then you need to kind of be aware of what all of them do, and like if you're not, then you can kind of get burned. Like what people's strengths scored, as we all did. Like so what their strengths are, what their movement is. It happened to one of the reasons I scored on Larry because he didn't realize that my gutter runners can move 9 spaces.
That's gross. And you have to smack the rats.
Absolutely disgusting. So the ball landed in the middle because it went out of the end zone. It landed on top of my gutter runner. Just gunned it to the end zone.
Runner is in the name. How?
So is gutter, which means they're trash.
You did kill one of them. You killed
as they deserved.
So,
I mean, it does have the problem of just not having the rules printed on the table you're playing on.
yeah.
Well, that can be arranged. I mean, that's also going to factor back into price.
Yeah.
However.
Yes. That's very true. So yeah. So I think, is there anything else you wanted to add to the complexity, or?
I think I got a majority of my thoughts out, but just as a last note, the decision-making process is just so interesting. There is so much going on.
There is a lot of opportunity to just be a complete wild card or play very strict.
How to structure your own turn is something that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, and even just where your pieces have to start with.
Do you start by going after the ball, a chance of risking your turn, but a chance to move to a more advantageous position? Do you stop going for the ball and try to close out the half? It's just all the decisions you make in a normal football game, but micro.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty complex.
So before we do actually hit the wrap up, I think we should address the elephant in the room known as Games Workshop.
Ew.
I don't want to talk about Games Workshop, man.
I mean,
Sit down.
I don't like Games Workshop. They're the best.
I mean, so
Awesome.
we can have actual opinions on the subject. I think they are a great company in terms of what they provide for a community.
My podcast makes them no money, Larry, so they can't sue us. Go ham.
Oh no! If I go ham, you'll be off the air anyways. They have made a lot of questionable decisions in the past, such as consistently pumping out new editions, and you have to axe the entire rule set. Like Will didn't even know that we were on the 9th edition of 40K. He thought we were probably on 6.
No. To be fair, I thought we were on 7.
Oh.
I've talked to you in extent about 8th edition.
Yes, he has, and I
Also known as 5th edition for Will.
Yeah. When did 5th edition fantasy stop being a thing?
1974.
Genuinely, somewhere in the early 2000s.
Yeah, that was okay.
So around when you were born.
But yeah, speaking on GW.
A few years before.
Early 2000s, I would have been 10.
Well, yeah.
Okay, well, Will's going to try to remember how old he is, and we'll get back to him. Oliver, any thoughts on GW?
This is the part where I start screaming and making caveman noises, right? It's in the script right here.
Kill.
No, I have few polite things to say about them. They've been vampiric for their own industry, and somehow the community has survived in spite of them. They have done minimal things to help. In fact, most moves have been made to actively hurt, and that feels very frustrating for a community so born out of love for the medium.
Yeah, I don't play a lot of war games. I know some people who do, and I just hear about it through online. And I think Larry's description of Games Workshop is the nicest thing I've ever heard said about them. Like, I mean that 100% sincerely. So,
I'm going to
They're
go.
not a fantastic.
I'm going to go back to chanting 4-letter words at them.
Yes, like I said, they provide a lot for the community that they're actively trying to kill.
Yes.
Yeah, very fair.
At a very high price.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's part of
Behind the shed
community.
with a shotgun.
Yeah.
I just to throw this out here. I'm of the age. I remember being able to buy minis for like $30, $40.
That's also when you could get $20 at the mall and be thrilled on your afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is true. Back in my
And
day.
let's talk politics, guys.
Yikes.
Yeah.
No, let's not touch the economy. It's
The
dying by itself.
socioeconomic factors of Warhammer.
In my day,
No,
a street
thank
car
you.
cost a nickel.
You know what, Will? Why don't you just go buy a house when you work your minimum wage job?
See what happens.
All right. Any closing thoughts?
3.
Okay.
No, just the number 3.
Oh, just the number 3. All
I
right.
have, I just think like as far as it goes, if you're gonna play this game, like I do not recommend just picking up and trying to do it. As someone who did that originally, like I ended up watching some videos and kind of picking up on the base strategy, the base way to play. But you definitely need someone who has at least some experience playing Blood Bowl, or rather, you're gonna have a much better time if you get that.
In an ideal situation, you're learning alongside someone else with a third player who knows how to play as a Sherpa.
Yeah. So
Preferably
you can-
the same edition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You can find videos online of people playing, and you can kind of follow along with that. But I guess it's one of the reasons we wanted to put our stuff out there, just so people that weren't incredibly super familiar with the game, playing through it, and I think that'll be helpful. But yeah, definitely, I have that here. Definitely have a mentor to help you learn. It's a good intro to wargaming if that's something that you're thinking about picking up, and if you are, get thinking about getting into wargaming seriously.
If you are, don't.
Yeah, well, don't. But the price tag is fine for an intro.
If you're gonna
for
do
wargaming,
it, do it with
too.
friends.
Yeah, just do it with friends. Do it with people who know.
I feel like between
and set aside more time than you think you're going to need, because it can go really short and it can go really long, and there's no way to tell. Not even if you're both running fast teams, there's just no way to know. It can. You can make your rolls, you can fail your rolls. Either can extend the game for a really long time, and so it's something that you're gonna sit down and probably plan to play one game in an afternoon, and if you get lucky, you can play second.
Fair. All right, closing scores, guys. I gave it a 25, and I think that's relatively low for games that we score on the show.
I clocked in at a 27, which out of the 3 times I've been here, I'm pretty sure that is my lowest reviewed game, and also the second most enjoyable. I absolutely hated playing Betrayal, but that's because I've played that game to death. Literally, there's ghosts.
If I scored this right, I think I gave it a 31. I think I was a little generous in some of the stuff, just trying to interpret it in the context of war games for a lot of the stuff. But yeah, so that's my lowest review. It's also my highest review, so not much to say there.
I gave it a 26.5, and I don't have a previous metric to compare it to, but I feel like I underscored it a little, to be honest. But I enjoyed it. It was fun.
I do believe my 27 was fair.
I think we all scored it in the high 20s, low 30s, so I think we're all kind of in agreement about where it stands.
Yeah, and that's usually kind of what happens, is we all sort of sink around the same spot by the end.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that fun? I assume I hadn't really been listening. But while I'm waiting for the police to show up, I'd like to thank everyone involved for this episode. Putting together episodes for War Games is very difficult with our setup, especially ones that are only 2 players. Will and everyone else worked really hard behind the scenes to make sure we could do this today. If you like this and want to hear more, you can follow us on Twitter at DanceWithBards, on Facebook or Instagram at DancingWithTheBards, or on Mastodon at bards@crater.gg. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode for Cosmic Encounter.
Hey! Good.
It
I
is
did it right.
in fact Twitch at With Bards.
And I hear sirens, so my ride is here.
Your ride is already here.
Hey, Soundman, you got to be the one to stop it.